So thank you everyone for coming this evening. Jerry, shall we do the Shir Le'il Nishmas? Whose yard site is it?
You're muted, Jerry.
Jerry, you have to unmute yourself. Can you repeat yourself? What?
Yeah, Eliezer ben Dover, my brother.
Oh, your brother, right?
He passed away before his time, but he was a fine oncologist, hiker, art lover, antique collector, you name it, and a very, very loved father and husband.
Okay.
And brother.
Jerry, say his name again, please.
Eliezer ben Dover.
Wish you long life, Jerry.
Thank you. Thank you.
We do indeed. Okay, so maybe the shir could be a little nishma. So, okay, Mirz Hashem, his neshama should have an aliyah.
Thank you.
And I would like to share some thoughts about Teshuvah. I want to begin with something that's kind of related. I'm going to mute everybody, but it's kind of related to what we've been talking about with regards to the bracha of Hashivenu Avinu L'Sarosecha, the bracha of Teshuvah. Okay, and let me see if I could share my screen here. Yeah, here you go. You can read it inside here. So look at this language here. This is from Pele Yoetz. Pele Yoetz is a beautiful sefer that I like to learn on occasion. So he says like this: Rabbeinu Harizal, Tikei Nusach Lomar. The Arizal, that's the famous Kabbalist, perhaps the first Kabbalist, certainly of the last 1,000 years. He established a nusach, a language that's used in our liturgy. No, I have never seen this in a printed in a siddur before. That doesn't mean anything. And that is that when they would say the bracha of Hashivenu, which is the bracha of the Amidah that we've been discussing, when you would say it Ba'aseres Yemei Teshuvah during the 10 days of awe, from Rosh Hashanah through Yom Kippurim, and then he says, Ani hosafti b'dvar mekach amar tamid kol hayom. He says, I added a few things, and this is how I say that bracha every day. Now, from a halachic perspective, you can technically add words to brachos for your own personal bakashos, for your own personal prayers, as long as they are germane to the idea of the bracha itself. Shema Koleinu is the bracha. It's kind of a catch-all, and you can daven for anything in that bracha. But during this bracha, Hashivenu Avinu L'Sarosecha, so here the first part of the bracha is exactly the way that we say it. Hashivenu Avinu L'Sarosecha, return us, our Father, to your Torah. V'kervanu milibeinu la'avodasecha. Our language is a little bit different, but it basically bring our hearts close to your service. V'achzireinu b'teshuvah shlema lefanecha, and return us in complete teshuvah. And that's the nusach that more or less everybody says the whole year. And then he added on, Ana, please, kill, oh God, Rachm v'chanan erech hapayim. You are the God who is God of mercy. You're a God, the God who is so gracious. Erech hapayim, slow to anger. So he praises him, and then he says, Harich apecha. Please, Hashem, be patient with us. Ad shuvenu elecha. Until we have come back to you. B'teshuvah shlema lefanecha. With a complete teshuvah in front of you. Va'ad shenashlom tikun nafshenu. Ruchenu v'nishmasenu. And be patient with us while we correct our tikkun of our nefesh, ruach, and neshama, the various parts of our soul. V'chatar chatira, and please dig a little hole, engrave a little space, mitachas kisei kivodecha, underneath your throne of glory, lachzirenu b'teshuvah shlema lefanecha, to return us in complete teshuvah, ulahadrichenu la'avodasecha, and to guide us in your avodah. V'tirtzenu b'rachamecha harabim, And may you desire us through your great mercy. Your right hand is outstretched. Lekabel shavim, to accept those who would return. Baruch atah Hashem, harotze b'teshuvah. God is the source of all blessing, who desires Teshuvah. It says, Alzos yispalo kol adam v'yivakish rachamim gedolim. Person, everyone should pray, should daven in this way and request great mercy. Etc. Obviously, okay. Now there's one more thing I noticed here that I wanted to point out. So I find it personally fascinating when in Svarim I identify different language to that different people used to use to pray, to beseech Hashem. It's hard to come up with the language on your own, but sometimes you read somebody else's language, and you can connect to it in a very deep way. There's one more thing I wanted to say over here. Okay. This paragraph here caught my eye as well. He's trying to I think what he's trying to do here is trying to motivate us not to be overwhelmed. So he says like this. Let's read it together and then we could discuss it. Tell me what you get from it. Al yisya'ish min harachamim. Don't give up hope from the mercy. Meaning, you should continue to hope that God will be merciful. V'al yomar, do not say lurik yagati, all my efforts for nothing. Letogo v'hevel kochi kalisi, I used up all my energy effort. It was a waste of time. Ela yiftach b'shem Hashem. Rather, a person should have the confidence in Hashem. That it's possible to correct our mistakes and to find redemption. And a person should have complete faith. You know how one of the 13 principles of faith is to believe that Hashem rewards and punishes? An aspect of that belief system is that the smallest thing that a person does that's good, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to reward. God is not hiding himself from us, etc. One second. Okay, a cute sort of metaphor over here, analogy over here, which I'll share. He says, what's it similar to? Leben melech. Imagine you have a prince. Sheshalchu aviv me'atar d'shma koshta le'eret merchakim. His father sent him on a business trip to a place far away. It's not a business trip, it's a personality trip, okay? Kedei sheyarviach, in order for him to develop himself. V'yeknei shem tov la'atzmo, so he should develop his reputation. V'uloke nasa, he did not do as he was meant to. Panel rahavim, he went to nightclubs. V'lava, that's a loose translation. V'lava, he borrowed money. V'achal v'sava, v'dashan, basically he ate and drank, and was merry. V'allah chov l'cheshbon gadol, he just borrowed money. He didn't without paying anything back, and he ended up owing thousands of dollars all over the place. He didn't even know how much money he owed. So what happened? The balichovos, the people who lent him the money, they went to his father, the king, and said, okay, it's time to pay the piper. The king said to them, wait until I write a letter to my son. I want to see if he's going to take care of this himself. He should put forth all of his efforts to making money so that he could pay back his loans. Because if not, he says, Yaviu etzlo, I'll bring him to me. V'yifra megufo v'nafsho, I'll make sure he pays it from his body and from his soul. And that's what the prince did. And he started to send the various funds to his father so he could pay back his loans. Nevertheless, he thought maybe he hadn't paid back even a third or even a quarter of what he owed, or even maybe even 2%, because he had no idea how much money he owed. Maybe, he says, maybe everything was stolen by thieves, and maybe somebody robbed the Pony Express or the stagecoach, or maybe maybe the money he's sending has no value. He's sending rubles or something. I don't know, and it has no value in the country where he's sending it to. Okay, but nevertheless, he continued to send money. But he always had that fear. He always had that anxiety until he went to the place and he saw what he had done. He sees that in Zach v'yosher palo, he sees if he had acted properly and appropriately, as yismach libo v'yago kivodo, kiyim tashem keren kayam. He's going to be so glad when he sees that he actually was accomplishing something with himself. He says, hanimshal muvan me'elav dok v'tishkach. The analogy is understood on its own. Think about it and you'll figure it out. So what does he mean? Obviously, Hashem puts us into this world in order to build a reputation for ourselves and do Torah and mitzvos and do everything, etc. And what a person might end up doing with his time versus what he's supposed to be doing. And then he starts getting into trouble and he's trying to correct his behavior and he's trying to correct it. Ultimately, he goes to HaKadosh Baruch Hu in the Olam HaEmes, right? He calls it Olam Kushta, the true world. And he sees how much he actually accomplished. So the reason I want to share this paragraph with you is because I think a lot of people don't believe in themselves when it comes to Teshuvah, or they say they're too far gone, or something along those lines. But the reality is that that we need to believe that we actually do make a difference. Jerry, I think that's your question. Does Teshuvah Shlema differentiate between mitzvot and kavanah? I'm not sure what you're asking.
Rabbi, how do you measure? How do you actually measure Teshuvah Shlema? How do you actually feel? Because in effect, you never get to complete Teshuvah Shlema. There's always improvement. There's always, and I just wonder if kavanah is a function of Teshuvah. Just your feelings, your the intensity of your belief. I think
Jerry, do you mean intent? Do you mean your intent?
Your sound is not great.
How strongly you feel and believe in Kadosh Baruch Hu. Do you mean intent, or do you mean how strong you feel about Kadosh Baruch
Hu? I'm thinking of how we daven, how we do tefillot, and with kavanah, and that's part of Teshuvah, is it not, Rabbi? I mean, just prayer in and of itself, is that not part of Teshuvah?
Is prayer part of Teshuvah? I think prayer, when one prays for help with Teshuvah, in that sense it is. Certainly in areas of prayer, one might have to do some Teshuvah, but I don't think that's what you mean, right? So I'm not sure what you mean, Gary.
Maybe I don't understand really what Teshuvah is.
Let's go a little bit further in the shir tonight, and then let's see if you're still wondering what Teshuvah is. Can we do that?
Yes, please.
Okay. That would be my suggestion. I came across something fascinating today that I want to include in this year. 1 second. Let's see, here we go, 1 second. Oh, here we go. Okay. So listen to this idea. Okay, so first of all, Yirmiyahu Navi, Jeremiah the prophet, when he used to give Musar, he would give Tochacha, he would try to encourage people to do the right thing, and he would tell them, look how far you've gone away from Hashem. The people would respond, Be'elu hapanim anu chozrim la'kadosh baruch hu. With this sort of face, we can go back to God. In other words, they were so embarrassed by the extent to which they had fallen, that they were simply terrified that there's no path back for them. So Yirmiyahu responded to them, Beni, im chozrim atem. My children, my children, in chozrim atem, if you're going to do Teshuvah, lo itzel avichem atem chozrim, are you not returning to your father? Ki hayisi li Yisrael la'av, God says, I am for the Jews as a father. Ahavti eschem, amar Hashem. It's a pasuk. I love them, says Hashem. Banim atem l'Hashem elokechem. We are the children of Hashem. A father loves a child with a love that's not dependent on anything. It's an intrinsic love. There's no conditions that have to be met. And the gate's always open. That was the conversation of Yirmiyahu and the people. The people didn't understand that. They didn't grasp that. But Yirmiyahu had to convince them and had to reassure them. So listen to this idea from the Chidush Yarim in the name of Rabbi Bunim from Pshischa. Pasuk says, and we say this pasuk a lot on Yom Kippur, Ya'azov Rasha Darko. The wicked person, will abandon his derech. What does that mean? His path. The wicked person will abandon his path. What does that mean exactly? The way he said it was, is there such a thing as a path in the mud? That's called a path? A life of sin is a path? So he says, what the Torah is speaking about over here is, or the Navi is speaking about is, you have an avaryan, you have a person who's living a life of sin. And he's very, very regretful for all the things that he did wrong. But he's given up hope that he could ever change himself. Why? Because he thinks to himself that he's worthless, he's not worth anything. And therefore, he doesn't want to do Teshuvah. Or he doesn't try to do Teshuvah. He says, Derech kazos, this sort of path, ish la'azov b'chol mechir. That mindset, that path, is one that a person should abandon at any price. Yazov Rasha Darko, the Russian needs to leave his path. What does that mean? The Derech Hayush v'achno Apsula, the path of hopelessness, the path of treif humility. Who am I to change? The Yashuv al Hashem. He should return to Hashem, and God will have mercy. Ve'elokeinu, and to our God, ki yarbe l'slach, because Hashem will very, very much increasingly forgive. Very powerful, very, very powerful idea. I think that tomorrow night I was invited to give a class for a group of young folk who are either not religious or they're new to the religion and not so clear exactly. The title of the class is going to be, what I came up with, is more of a workshop, and we're calling it Jewish New Year's Resolutions, a workshop on how to make them last. Okay? So that's what the class is going to be about. So I ask you, okay, we have some time left for the shir tonight. I ask you, we have here tonight, how many people are on tonight? 7. 7 stalwarts have joined us tonight. Actually, 6 stalwarts. I'm one of, maybe 7. 2, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 stalwarts have joined us tonight. 4 of whom are very shy. But nonetheless, the 7 stalwarts are here. Okay? And I ask you, in our many years, I'm not going to do the math here, but let's take, we have close to 500 years of experience in this room tonight. 450, I don't know, I'm just rough estimate, okay? Have you ever made a resolution that you've kept? And if you have, what has been the key that has helped you keep that resolution? Meaning, let's flip the whole derech thing around. If the Rasha's derech is to not believe in himself, then what's the tzaddik's derech? To believe in himself, to believe in herself, right? It's the exact opposite. I think that's key. I think if you don't believe in yourself, there's no way you're going to make any sort of lasting change. Okay? I think that's pretty obvious. But besides for the obvious, what are your thoughts? If you have ever made a lasting change, what was the key to it? So Myrna, thank you so much for answering. Fly under the radar. Do very small steps. I asked Dr. Fox this question today. I was curious about what he would say. So I have to listen again. I only listened one time, but he said, try to change something that's, I can't remember if he said challenging or not challenging, but he said for a small thing for a short amount of time. 3 days. 3 days. You don't think so, Myrna?
Too big.
Too big. Oh, too big.
I think what you can do, I was going to give you an example, but I'm going to say it instead.
Go ahead.
I think what you can do is you're welcome to do it for 3 days, but I'll give you an example of Lashon Hara. If you take a nader not to say Lashon Hara, you can take a nader from the time, if you're a woman, that you strike the match to light the candle for Shabbos till you finish the Shabbos brachas. That's all. It's less than a minute and a half. If you continue, Baruch Hashem. But as you do that, it starts to build. Like if you say, I want to do Tehillim, the whole book, every blah, blah. So you say, once a week on this day at this time, I'm going to do 1 Tehillim. And you do that over and over and over again. And then you say, well, maybe I'll take a second one.
Okay. Rav Shach would say, if I'm fairly well known, Rav Shach would say, you want to bench from a bencher. You know, Jerry, you were talking about Kavanah before, right? You were talking about Kavanah before. So if you want to bench from a bencher, so you don't sound the whole year, every time, you say once a day, or, Shach would say until Hanukkah. But it's a very long period of time. So you have to do really what works for you. really what works for you. So whether it's a positive thing you're taking on for yourself, or whether it's something that you're trying to not do. Let's say somebody says, I don't want to read the newspaper on Shabbos. That would be a madrega, a high level. Okay? Somebody says, I don't want to read a novel on Shabbos. That would be certainly a halachic practice, no question. Okay? I think one of my kids once didn't read any non-Jewish authors on Shabbos for the whole month. Oh, for Aseret Teshuvah. The 10 days of Teshuvah, they wouldn't read any. From Rosh Hashanah through Yom Kippur. They didn't read anything written by someone not Jewish. Meaning, no novels, no what time wasting. Obviously, in school they had to read whatever they had to read. Okay, but in terms of like free time, right? A very short. Okay, so that's one key. Anybody else have anything to say? We have Kenai Nahar. We have 500 years of experience here, at least. So what do you say? What is something that you can do to make sure that you keep your New Year's resolution? Forget New Year's resolution. You made a resolution, and you kept it. So what was the key to keeping it?
That you really want to do it.
You got to really want it. It can't be that I'm trying to convince you to do it.
Or yourself.
Well, you might theoretically believe you want it. You just don't really want it because it's more fun to do it the other way. So you could try to convince yourself that you want it. I don't know. We talked about it last week a little bit, right? With procrastination. Yeah, not last week, but fairly recently. Okay, but you have to really want it, okay? So A, small steps. B, you have to want it. Barry, what do you say? Putting you on the spot here. Itana Avigail, you have anything to say here? Everyone here on this screen has changed their life drastically. How did you do it?
Davening.
Desire.
So Jerry says desire. Itana Avigail, what are you saying?
Davening a lot, asking Hashem for help, a lot of help, and just doing as I think as Myrna mentioned, I think he said taking small steps, but just realizing my own limitations and trying the best I can.
Okay. Realizing your limitations and still trying the best that you can, okay? In other words, don't be so hard on yourself. Is that what you're saying in a way?
Yeah.
When people are hard on themselves, it tends to backfire, no?
Yeah.
Okay. Miriam Greenberg, what do you say? You have a lifetime of experience for yourself and working with TLC students. What do you say is the key?
I never try on Rosh Hashanah. Like I want a good Rosh Hashanah. I never try to make resolutions on Rosh Hashanah. I'm always trying to make resolutions.
All the time.
Yeah, I'm always trying. Yeah. Like once I took on patience, I said, I'm going to practice patience. That turned out to be a really good idea. But it wasn't like, on Rosh Hashanah. Rosh Hashanah is very hard for me. My brother died the second day of Rosh Hashanah when he was only 28.
Wow.
So Rosh Hashanah is even though that was a very long time ago, it's still a very, very hard holiday for me.
Okay. That being said, and certainly validating that, that there's no need to do it on Rosh Hashanah itself, but you have the whole month of Elul, the Aseret Teshuvah, the 10 days of Teshuvah, when certainly it's a time of return to Hashem, that Hashem makes it even easier for us. But whatever it is, the resolutions that you've taken on, whatever time of the year they might be, the same with the question is still a good question, right? In other words, if your student comes to you and says, what can I do to take on something and make it last? Well, how would you advise them?
I don't really know. I said at the beginning of Elul that I wanted to read the book of Tehillim. Like I read Tehillim a lot.
Okay.
I wanted to read an extra time, like whatever I read already, and I wanted to read the book in addition to whatever I was reading. And I just did it. In fact, I finished one Saturday, I just finished on Shabbos. I just said, I'm just going to finish. I'm going to just try and finish. So I don't have to worry about this anymore. I just, and I just finished it like way early. But I don't know. I took in a lot of Tehillim, and when the COVID started, a lot more Tehillim.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like I took it on.
Some of what you're saying is that you also, like, when it comes to goals in general, so SMART goals are S is like specific, M is measurable. When you take on Tehillim, you're saying, I'm going to do one more parak or one more page or whatever. That's also something that could help you keep your resolution, because you have a way of gauging it.
Yes.
Patience is a much harder thing to gauge.
Patience turned out to be an amazing nida. It's where I think it's underrated. But but I struggle a lot. I'm not going to eat sugar. Like, forget about it. Like, maybe for a week and maybe 10 days, and then there I am back to eating sugar again. It's like very hopeless.
You and the rest of the world.
Other things are easy. Like I decided that I was going to call my grandchildren every Friday and give them a bracha.
Mm-hmm.
To change my cooking schedule to do it, because sometimes when I call them, they want to talk, which is obviously the purpose of the whole thing. Right. But it's, and I just stick to it. I just call them all every Friday. I don't get them all, but I get some of them every week.
Right. Okay. Barry, do you want to say anything before we go? But Barry, you'll have to unmute yourself. Thank you, Miriam. Anytime, Avigal. Barry, you still have to unmute yourself.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
So I would say that sometimes a support structure is useful. I remember quite a few years ago, I really moved from being a night person to a morning person, and I joined the Talmud learning group at 5:45 in the morning, and I would have thought that it would never be possible. But what enabled me to do that was that I was in touch with some very, very capable and lively people who encouraged me.
Yeah.
And my life was completely changed. So I think sometimes it helps to notify others what you want to do and ask them to help you out. And in addition to praying to Hashem for support, to make it a social thing. I mean, if the change is very, very strong, very, very, very great, it's hard to believe that you can do it really yourself. You need help, and you should confess to yourself that you need help, and that others, and you should encourage others to help you. I see that change. That's just
Rabbi,
I just wanted, Jerry, 1 second. Barry, you remind me of a joke I heard today from Rabbi Jacobson. He says, they asked this woman if she just turned 106. They said, what's the best part of being 106? She said, I get to do what I want. There's no peer pressure. They laughed. Rifki says that joke is awful. Jerry, what do you want to say?
Maybe I shouldn't say, but I'm just trying to get around this whole idea of Teshuvah. And it's, when we say we take on something, a resolution, is that like we're admitting to ourselves we're not doing something that we should be doing, or we're doing something that we really want to do? And is Teshuvah not something, the difference, it's like love. You don't force yourself to love something or somebody. It's something that you feel, that you want, and it is, and it may be an effort to express it and to achieve it, but it's really deep down underneath it all. And I feel Teshuvah is something, doing something that you really want to do, not something that you feel, oh, I should be doing this. Like
I think Jerry, I only have 3 minutes. Okay.
That's fine.
I think that
You don't even have to answer.
I think that God put us into the world for a reason, and He designed our neshamas. Our guf, our body, is just superficial. Who we are is who our neshama is. Every person has their own tikkun, their own reason for being here. Some aspect of neshama that needs to be developed or corrected or expressed somehow, some way. We don't know exactly what that is, because we don't have any prophet that we can go say, hey, what's my job in life? But we are gifted with certain capabilities and characteristics, personalities, strengths, weaknesses, that more or less we have an idea, a sense of like what's easy for us, what's hard for us. And I think that the Torah is a guidebook to keep all 613 mitzvahs, which is impossible, as I've said many times, because you have to be you have to be multiple genders and Kohen, Levi, Yisrael, living at the time of the Beit HaMikdash, and divorce your wife and all that kind of stuff. But every mitzvah that's possible that for you to do, we try to do to the best of our ability. We all have shortcomings and shortfalls and some failings and areas that we are not careful, whether it's not being careful with kosher, whether it's not being careful with Shabbos, whether it's not being careful with other things that the Torah is very explicit about. Or maybe there's certain mitzvot that we do, but we're also not careful about doing them properly. We put on our tefillin, but we have no awareness of connecting ourselves to Hashem. Or we make Kiddush, but we don't have any realization that we're making this holy day special and separating it from the weekday, etc., etc. The list is endless, right? And Teshuvah is the job of essentially becoming the best Jew that I can be. Now, it's because in my belief system, I believe that HaKadosh Baruch Hu put me into this world to do something, and He gave me the Torah and the mitzvahs as a vehicle through which I'm able to do those things. And of course, that doesn't even touch on midot, derech eretz, and all of that, the whole interpersonal realm, of course, as well, and intrapersonal realm as well. So if you're quick to anger, if you're quick to be impatient, to work on those things, and Teshuvah is the process of correcting ourselves and coming closer to Hashem. And obviously there's technical details and ways of doing it, but everything that we're talking about is basically saying to Hashem, hey, listen, I can't do this alone, I need your help. And I'm so grateful to all of you for coming tonight, and I'm grateful for your input, and Jerry, I'm happy to discuss it one-on-one. Okay? Have a great night. Okay, go to everybody, bye-bye.
So much, Rabbi Stewart.
My pleasure, good night.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you. Thank you.